All right, and we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would sit down and do an afternoon Q&A with you guys and gals. Let me get all the little stuff put up here. I want to go ahead and link this in the community tab. People are saying they're getting the notifications now, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Hopefully that continues, but I'm going to go ahead and put one up. I don't know how long I'm going to run this one. Hopefully I'll run this one reasonably late. I've got all my important work done. I have nothing else that is critical that has to be done. Right? That has to be done. And so, yeah, I can sit in here for just a little bit if need be. We can sit in here just a little while. So, yeah, people always got some negative stuff to say or some of that. I always got weirdos who are worried that I'm in shorts outside, like on in my comments. Like there's something wrong with those people, right? You got to wonder what sort of weirdos actually think it's strange for a man to be outside in a hot climate in a pair of shorts, right? So those people probably are the weird ones themselves, or they come from a very bizarre culture. Maybe they come from a very strange fundamentalist Islam culture. All right. So let's get this put in the community tab. I don't know. It's very strange that people really are bothered by it. I don't think they actually are. I can't envision a bunch of grown men really being bothered by it. Unless they're just really insecure about being fat or out of shape or something themselves. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. All right? I think it makes sense to me. All right. Peppermint Coach, no, you didn't get a notification. Well, that's strange. Maybe that lunch one kind of used one up for the day, because technically that was a third thing, right? That was the third one this morning because we had coffee, then I had the vlog, and then that one. So maybe that's what's causing it. So I might have to be careful. I might have to do a lot of days, Peppermint, to where I just focus on other stuff and just really put the afternoon, because the afternoon is the ones that's really going to hit hard. But yeah, hit that like button. Appreciate it. The afternoon streams are the ones that are going to hit hard. But it might put notifications up as soon as people who get in here are hitting the stuff there. Right? That might be what we actually need. Might be what we need to make it happen. But making a note of that. So the people were saying in the midday one, they got one. So that tells us a whole lot, doesn't it? As far as getting people into the notifications. So that means really my efforts need to be in really only doing 2 of them. Because I got to have some midday stuff up of some type. Like I can't not put anything up. But it's kind of hard. How do I get all my client vlogs up? Could be a problem. Finally, I made it. Veins looking freaky right now. Appreciate it, North American. Did you get a notification, or did you just kind of see me up? Like, did it give you a notification? All right. But it's definitely, I don't think it's sending notifications out. These views are way too low. So it's my own fault. I gotta learn to do these during really the peak times only. Definitely that midday, not good. So figuring their algo out. I got no notifications, got lucky with the timing. Okay. Now it happens, man. It happens. So I can expect there won't be any. So it's only going to people who get the raw traffic. So the only way this one's going to hit feeds is if you guys give a bunch. I have a 6th sense for coach. Yeah, so if you guys all kind of give me traffic here, it'll probably go into non-subscriber, non-follower feeds. But we got veins today. Oh, my shoulder's a little crampy. I don't know where that just came from. I'm sitting up here, just started kind of a little bit of spasm there. It could be all that really high rep overhead I just did. We need to push this out into feeds. There we go. What do you guys think on the veins today? We good? Although that is actually really tender. So that interior delta is exhausting. Yeah, guys, I think I'm definitely going to not bother with with the direct arm work. I just need to get really strong at stuff like chins and dips, moderate the volume. I had someone else who watches my stuff chime in. He's like, I can tell you what all the arm work has done. It's kept them small. It's not worked for you, obviously. Which is an interesting take. Start pushing my arms the same way I do my legs. It's always fascinating too. People will say silly stuff like, well, you don't ever train your arms to failure, it doesn't look like, and I laugh because, in response to that, it's like, no, I do all my curls to failure. You mean I don't do my legs to failure? And that should be what blows people's minds. Like, I don't think people understand what failure is. And it's always a strange take to me. I don't see how people expect me to do more with my arms unless they want me to like do really crazy cheat reps. Like, if I hit 12 reps or 15 or whatever it is on those curls, I can't do another rep. Right? Can't do another rep. So I don't really know what they expect. They're like, well, you use the same weight too much, add more weight. But then I only do 4 reps. So it's an interesting take. But I don't do my squats and deadlifts to failure and my legs grow. Joe Rogan didn't. Did Joe Rogan actually die? Let me check. You're going to make me go check this. So if he's not dead, I'm banning you, by the way. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's an auto ban for you. Pudgewick, so you're out of here. So we're going to do Kapow, right? And because here's the thing. You made me tab out from the live stream to check the news and distracted from the live stream to check something that was fake news like that. So you're out. Kapow! And you're out of here. I think that's fair. All right, next. You interrupted the live stream. Yeah, we back Defiant. And I think that was a fair Kapow. What do you guys think? You guys are free to vote on it after the fact. I mean, in theory, I can unban him while it's still up, right? I can unban him while it's still up in theory, while it's still on my screen. But I don't think the regulars are going to vote to bring him back. Everyone's going to be like, resurrect. They're not going to do it versus a Kapow vote. Because, he's in a limbo. But the fact is, what did he do? We're in here in a stream. And he comes in and pulls a rest in peace to Joe Rogan, thus making me leave the stream to check news stories. Therefore, he interrupted the live stream with fake news. We don't put up with fake news like that. You're disrupting our entertainment. So you guys to go. Right? Fake news should carry a capital offense too. Oh man. So yeah, there's still people really upset and arguing too, Peppermint, about that post of not liking the thing with the Bible in there. And I think it's fascinating is that people don't understand the pragmatic, that meme. You saw that, well, there's some arguments in there. They don't understand the pragmatic end. And this is something that I've always realized and thought of with a lot of this, or at least when I've really thought about it. Religious belief gives you hope and it gives you purpose. And if it turns out that we're wrong and that there's nothing and atheists are right, and this life is all that we get. But if we went through this life believing that that's it, and no hope, no purpose, many of them have a very bleak nihilist viewpoint, not all of them, but many, versus those of us who at least live this life with a sense of purpose, a sense of hope, and oftentimes used to drive on and do things, like our motivation, our discipline can be derived from that. Have we lived a better life for it? So if you compare these two positions, even if it turns out that we're wrong, has our life benefited from it anyway? So if we lose, let's say it's a gamble. Well, God could be real, might not. So we're taking a gamble. But if we're getting it wrong in that case, we're still coming out pretty good, aren't we? We still got a better life out of it. We at least had a sense of hope and a sense of faith. But if they're wrong, yeah, exactly. But if they get it wrong, they're really screwed and we really went out. It's like one of those cases where if we're right, we really win, right? On that. But if we go the other direction, we're really, really screwed, you know? Great civilizations always had religion as a backbone. I mean, so my point is, I think I can make a rational argument, like an actual logical argument, towards Christianity. I think we can make a logical argument. I think it is very much a thinking man's religion. You know, right? I mean, they bring out artifacts from Jews there now, right? But I mean, in terms of a logical argument. So if we look at it and go, okay, so if we're going to say that there is an afterlife, so let's set faith aside and use pure reason. Use the minds that God gave us to reason and logic. Let's use logic. Let's use our logical brain. Okay. So any situation where there's an afterlife, we probably are going to need to choose. Probably choose wisely in terms of what we believe and hope that we get the right one. Okay. Now, if there isn't one, we haven't lost because we're going to have faith and a sense of purpose, anyways. But let's assume then, let's go with the other alternative. God's real. Afterlife is real. So then you got to figure out which one is a good choice. Well, if God is really real and he wants believers, we could assume he probably has at least a reasonably sizable following that we've all heard of. Right? So then you look at it and say, if he turns out to be real, which one's it's going to be very likely? Which one's very likely to be actually a God I would ultimately be happy with? We can make a case, that Christianity is laid out as a religion is actually a pretty nice in the grand compared to a lot of others, kind of a very benevolent creator who really is not asking a lot from you. He's really not. And you see a sizable following. You see where that religion has over time created civilizations as it expanded. There's always growing pains with it. Well, I think it definitely depends on which version. But has Christianity as a religion not created some very strong, very solid, very good civilizations that we actually want to live in? In terms of major religions, it's done a pretty good job. It's successfully shifted a lot of barbarism in places that it has gone to, including even Europe. I mean, ancient Europe was pretty barbaric 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. So you look at the success of that and say, you know what? This is looking like a religion that in the grand wash of things has turned out pretty good in creating some pretty good, very reasonable, solid, sustainable civilizations. Right. So, and that's a good point. Agreed. I tend to believe it's been brought forefront in general by a divine providence that is interested in an actually reasonable, sustainable society, based upon rules and basic good and altruism. It's been a fairly successful, quite successful civilization building ideology. So my point is, if we're going to set aside faith and use logic and reason, I think it's a solid choice. What do you think about Three Eye Atlas? I think even the experts are saying it just seems to be a comment, honestly. And unless we see some reason to think otherwise, I have no conspiracies about it. As far as I looked into that the other day, by the way, Charles. Now, a lot of people are not going to like what I said there. Man, the views dropped down. Someone took a like away. They didn't like my position on a religion, and that's okay. They don't have to. It's okay. I'm going to express my opinions. And I'm not like a militant, fire and brimstone, with it. I don't push my beliefs on anybody else. Oh, Charm, I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm not a conspiracy guy. Because I am probably know more about conspiracies than most people who are into them today. And I've seen the deep rabbit holes of it. And yeah, I don't believe in any of it at this point. And I'm familiar with every major conspiracy they're popular 20 years ago, 25 years ago. What do you mean change my mind on? As in stop believing them? There'd be a pretty long list of it. Since I don't believe in any of them, really, any of the major ones, it would kind of be I've changed my mind on most of them. I don't feel like going down the list other than I'll say I don't believe the Illuminati are real anymore, so on and so forth. I don't believe that my own government did 9/11 anymore. See what I mean? This list could get pretty long. I subscribe to quite a few of them, or at least to some degree in the past. I don't anymore. I think it's a rabbit hole of madness and nihilism, really. I think it leads people down a path of a black pill ideology. And instead of solutions, people get caught up in these ideologies and con men and other stuff, So they get caught up in all the cons and the nonsense, instead of saying, okay, so even if some of these turn out to be true, your solution is really for us to be good people and to build strong civilizations and good stuff around us. Your solutions are not to dwell on these unprovable conspiracies and obsess over them to the point to where you lose hope or you put focus in the wrong directions trying to deal with them because some crazy people online in a group convinced you of it. It's not. We don't need all of that. Because even if it turns out a lot of them do turn out to be true, what's your practical solution? Your practical solution is to build a strong, good civilization around you, to be a strong individual. To promote a stronger society, and us as men to promote men being stronger, more responsible, promote good values. That's your only real solutions. Your solutions are not to stand around and argue about the Rockefellers. Right? This is not your solution. Your solution is not to stand around and argue about what George Soros may or may not be up to. These are not solutions. This leads to nothing but nihilism and black pill over stuff that you can't prove, that you literally have zero evidence to prove anyways. And it's a very good probability, probably not even true. And when people talk about that, well, the crazy people are crazy. Well, a lot of the conspiracy theorists on the internet really are legitimately insanely crazy when you talk to them. Leads to radical things happening. Exactly. And it's not necessary. Because even if it turns out a lot of these things are true, your solutions is not to focus on that stuff. That's still not the solution to the problem. Is everyone really a little crazy? Are you sure? Meaning, is everyone maladjusted? Like how well we've coped with traumas is a thing. I jokingly say that I'm pretty crazy, but realistically, I've had therapists point out my ability to handle and cope with trauma is pretty extreme. That I'm actually pretty not crazy, all things considered. Um, but that's what I mean. So I don't buy this. Oh, everyone's a little crazy. No, because I think that starts to justify absurd behavior if we think that way. Do you do farmers' thoughts on them? Man, you should check the feed today, Kinshiro. So rather than me answer that, if you simply click on the videos for today and simply read today's video titles and look at the screenshots and thumbnails, you will have the answer to your question. Very simple. Let's see. Kapow! All right. Are you going more high reps now, Jason? I don't understand the context of your question, Jarvis. Like, are you asking, do I do a lot of high reps? Or are you asking, have I, as in I do more now than in previous phases? Because those are two very different questions. I need to be a little more specific. Okay, no, wrong question. Because that's a misleading question. Have I ever done extended periods of time where I did mostly fives and no tens or 15s? Like at any point in history, has that been a thing? Really? I mean, other than maybe sometimes for a couple weeks. Has that really been any of my training? Or have I generally promoted always using a fair number of high reps? So are we assuming we're comparing my training now to my training in different phases? When I trained for power, you mean when I did lots of 10, 15, and 20 rep sets years ago too? 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 25 years ago. I'm not sure what you're asking. You're asking a person who's always done lots of high reps and generally promoted high reps and at least accessory work for like 25 years of if they changed. It's like, no, I've only occasionally run very short phases with all low reps. They've been very, very, very short lived. So that's never really been my training. I've generally done mostly high reps most of my life. So maybe you have me confused with somebody else. And that's okay. Like you may not actually be familiar with my work, and that's okay. You don't have to be. Not everyone has time to research, 13 years of my content. That's a lot. Yeah. But yeah, fives are generally not power. Power is explosiveness in the 1 to 3. Max strength is going to be explosiveness in the 1 to 3. You start talking fives to 20s, we're generally into that, focusing on hypertrophy, which we should be focusing on hypertrophy. Right. I've done a lot of phases though where I did just singles and 10 plus, like nothing else. To where my training was maybe 5 to 10% one rep, and then the other 90 to 95%, 10 to 20. I've done a lot of stuff like that. I've also done a lot of where my conjugate, where I'm doing a lot of rep work outside of the max and speed work. I mean, I've done a few phases though where I do focus in like the moderate reps almost entirely, 5 to 8. But generally, I've tended to always run mixed rep ranges. Like if you go back and look historically, a lot of my training, um, most commonly you're going to see like 1 to 3 reps comprising a relatively small segment of my lifting, and then 10 plus reps. being the larger amount, right? That's tended to be a lot of my training history. I don't know. You could use me as a case study though to show that really high rep isolation doesn't build muscle. I'd be a good case study to actually say it doesn't. Because why don't I have amazing arms? And I've tended to do lots and lots of high rep curls and stuff to failure for my arms with high volumes, and they're still my worst body part. And I can just do heavy squats and then sled work or GBP, and my quads get massive. You know, so I could be used as a case study that power training is actually better than bodybuilding training for muscle mass. I would be actually a perfect example if someone wanted an N=1 for that. I don't know what any of those exercises are. How about working different parts of the shoulder, like doing shoulder press, flies, and up? I don't. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't see what you're asking me. Shoulder press, all right? We know what that works. Flies are not a shoulder exercise. Flies are a pectoral isolation movement. Upper, do you mean upright rows? I've definitely done phases of time where I work the shoulders from every angle. Side laterals, front raises, rear delt raises, all in the same workouts. Yeah, no, I've done that. I've done it for like 6 months straight before. Yeah, he's using the incorrect terms. Maybe he like rear delt flies. Some people call rear delt raises rear delt flies. But the upper rows you mean are an upright row, and they're pretty similar muscle activation to a lateral in terms of shoulder. What are the plans for now? Just logged on. I'm thinking of training my arms a lot more like my legs. Stop doing all the high volume, high rep to failure isolation stuff because I've been doing it for a while. So Chud, it's kind of like I laugh. Some of you guys are like, "Well, just add more weight." But then I can only do 3 reps. It's like, we just put more weight on the bar. When I do, I start only being able to do 5 or 6 cheat reps, and I can't do any strict reps. Like I can't do any. What do you mean just add weight? It doesn't work. Same thing on the going to failure. What do you mean? I can't, if I hit rep 14 and it just sticks in the bottom, I can't do more unless I start cheating. The weight just sticks. It doesn't move. So there's not 3 parts of the bicep charm. But so I think what I'm going to do is train my arms kind of like I do my legs. Just focus on progressive overload on big movements. Keep the volume moderate. No, I might not do any hammer curls at all. I might just focus on chins and dips. So when you're talking charms with the short head, the long head, and you're talking about, you mean the brachialis. So what do those muscles do? What is the function of those muscles? All of them's primary function is still elbow flexion, right? Short head is only involved in elbow flexion. The long head has some shoulder extension, is part of its function, right? Brachialis is also only elbow flexion, but the more pronated you go, the more activation it gets. How many reps could you do 225 on the bench at your strongest? I don't remember. I mean, my triceps to some extent. Yeah, it's strange. But hey, Chud, is it strange? If we buy into ideas like overtraining actually being a real thing, is it strange? What muscle group do I have a tendency to do the most total sets for and the most sets to failure for in any given month? Like if you were to say, what body part is Jason Blaha most likely to take to failure with the most sets per week and per month historically, what muscle would that be? If you were to plot my entire training history online, it's a pretty biased muscle. It wouldn't be hard to figure out. Biceps. So if you were to go look at every workout I've done for the last 5 years, and you were to count the total number of sets I've done for biceps to failure with 10 or more reps versus any other muscle, nothing else is even close. It's probably over that 5-year span, 2 to 3 times as many total sets as any other muscle in my body. We could make the case that I literally just overtrained my biceps to their detriment all the time, or for such extended periods of time, because they were at their biggest when I wasn't doing any curls at all. They're technically, I think, smaller than when I just lived on pull-ups and dips and closed grip benching, right? And I wasn't doing more than about 10 sets a week at most of the back pulling. But I pushed those sets like it was, let's get strong. Let us just get strong. Yeah, it looks huge. Well, the stuff from today, I mean, I'm definitely looking, that thumbnail is from today. That is a direct, unedited thumbnail. Apparently, Michael Joe has a fake black belt. Does he really? You know, this fake PhD lover introduced content, though he seems very angry. Yeah. I have less what now? Charms. So I think it's probably, I feel like it's almost a case of I've just flat overtrained my biceps with isolation work. So I almost feel like maybe I need to just do chin-ups. That's it. Just get really strong at weighted chin-ups again. Yeah. But how often do your arms look bigger with a higher body fat? Yeah. Well, I feel like if I just want to do some pump stuff, just the shoulders, my delts seem to be actually responding to all this stuff, but they're really like sorted already today. That anterior delt is all cramping on me in the middle since I started sitting down and just started doing it. Yeah, I tore this one, but that doesn't explain the right one. So, and it's not that they look big sitting here, but what about when I'm standing up shirtless and you can see my legs or my lats? You see the problem? My biceps don't look bigger. Yeah, if I'm walking down the street in a t-shirt, I get compliments on my arms, straight up, grocery store, whatever. But on camera, when you can see everything, dude, you're like, your arms are tiny because everything else is that big. But we could make the argument that maybe I need to train the arms the way I train everything else. Yeah. Well, you see me sitting here, but you can't see the other stuff. What happens when I stand up? So you're just seeing this shot. Proportionately, they need to be a couple inches bigger. Yeah. So because my back and my quads are so big, my biceps need to be 2 inches bigger to even be proportionate. So again, look at my legs, guys, by comparison. You see the problem now? See my back. I think my back volume is excessively high per week compared to stuff like my legs or my lats. Do you ever see me doing 20 sets for my quads? Bro, I was squatting 600 pounds on like 10 sets a week at one point. my legs were even bigger. Now, granted, I was at a higher body weight. My legs were bigger than they are now. So that's kind of my point. What happens if I just do 6 sets of weighted chins and try to progress on them a week and just try to get really strong? But because I felt like my arms needed more work, so and everyone goes, you got to do more curls, and I always thought of it from a bodybuilding. I'm like, yeah, I should just keep doing tons of arm work. Yeah. Yeah. So I am actually thinking that's really what I need to just do. And I feel like even the band press downs could be holding my triceps back. Maybe I just need to do dips and benching and overhead press. The only thing I think I'm going to keep isolating is my side delt. You know, I can do laterals. That might be the only thing I isolate for a bit and just see what happens. Because look at my quads on that sled work in that screenshot. Like I'm watching myself walk back towards the camera. That's in the thumbnail. Like Jesus. Like that's literally no filters, no editing. That is just what I look like on the raw footage with an iPhone. You know? So I mean, so it's the same picture in the community tab. That's fasted. I have like no food in me. That's just walking after the pump on the sled work. And they look like that in the mirror too. It's like that's what my legs look like. I don't do that much leg volume. I don't have to. Ever do closed grip girls with a curl bar? Yes. I feel that more in my brachialis. Okay, so you're talking about doing burnouts and stuff. You do know that's what seems to have not worked for me, right? Charms, you're trying to push me right back to the sort of stuff that I've been doing. I don't think that's kind of the point we're making is that sort of bodybuilding training doesn't work for my arms. It's kind of the point. So you're kind of like, hey, you should, do the sort of stuff you've been doing. Just the context. I do occasionally some forearm work. I don't have to do a lot. I've had phases where I did a lot of it, but I mean, I just do all my pulling without straps. And I had tiny, tiny, tiny forearms when I started. I do not have forearm genetics. I have little wrists and I had little forearms when I started. Yeah. So now, so charms, you should probably not give advice on this one. Just saying, bro. Hit that like button, by the way, guys. So yeah, I think I should just get really strong at weighted chins. I mean, I'd measure here and there, but I go by how they look in the mirror because that's what matters. Does anybody care what they measure? They only care what they look like. And I have longer arms, and I'm not a short dude, so it's harder to make them move bigger. Unfortunately. But what else we want to talk about? I feel like I'm kind of bored talking about curls at this point, you know. Long arms are good for grapplers in boxing. They're good for deadlifts too. Long arms are not good for bodybuilding. Little T-Rex arms are the best for bodybuilding. You want little midget arms. Best thing you could have. Look at Lee Priest. Yeah. I appreciate my legs though, right? Oh. But it's been a good business week so far. Been a really good business week. Um, so lots of stuff outside of the expected rotation. That's why I'm not even that worried that it's been a little slow on supers so far this week. So yeah, not that big of a deal. Taking as they come. These dudes complaining about me having no clothes on my shorts. It's so weird. It's so like, why does anybody care about that? Like as a negative thing. Why are dudes so worried that another dude is training, working out in shorts? I gotta wonder. I think part of it though is people aren't used to athletic gyms. They're not used to the hot temperatures. Um, they've definitely not been in serious lifter gyms. No, Rhonda Patrick is definitely a grifter who's making her whole business selling supplements. That's the little bit I can tell about her. I don't take her seriously at all. I vaguely know who Peter Addy is, but Rhonda Patrick is to me just a supplement salesman. Everything I've ever seen of hers is nothing but you need these 27 supplements. Like, are you serious? She's a straight grifter. Like no reasonable person thinks that you need the number of supplements she pimps for everything. And I've seen her just pimp stuff that we know doesn't work. That tells you everything you need to know about her. Whatever other stuff she may or may not have done that I'm not familiar with in terms of health, well, she's just a supplement salesman, so who cares? You can get advice from a doctor who's not trying to push nothing but supplements. On any other advice she might have that's useful. And then you're not endorsing the supplement pimps. Every time I've seen something of hers, it's a mile long list, dude. So, like the Roman helmet, badass. I don't remember. I've had it for years, so it's a Spartan helmet to go with my 300 costume. Um, I mean, I could have got it on Amazon, but I don't remember for sure. I've had it for a long time, so I've had it a long time. Oh man, that's what's funny is that people who actually know niches of stuff that he's focusing on the Roman helmet. No, I don't know any Foo Fighter songs. The reason I'm smirking, think about what else is literally visible. Think about what else is visible in here and read the headstock on it. Read the actual word written up there. Because it's like people who know are like, wait, is that a real Gibson Les Paul in the background? It's like, yeah, it's a real Gibson. They're like, oh shit. No, dude, I have a Gibson Les Paul sitting right there. See the word at the top? And people are like, oh, this part helmet is cool. But people who know are like, wait, is that real? Like, can you bring it over? I had someone do, wait, can you bring that over closer to the camera? Is that actually real? I'm like, yeah. It's not an Epiphone. That's a real Gibson. I'm like, yeah. I'm literally doing weighted dips now, and I just finished bench pressing. Good stuff, Kenshiro. Good stuff, man. Yeah. So Charms, that's Vanessa. I'll bring her over. All right. Now it's real. Some go for 12K. Well, mine doesn't. But do you think 12K is anywhere near the upper limit for Gibson Les Pauls? You need to add some zeros. Most I've seen a Gibson go for is 150,000 US dollars. Especially like the most classic line. So you're talking new ones, right? 12,000, you mean ones you go buy from Gibson today. Yeah, they do have some up in that range. But if you're talking used, you're talking vintage collector pieces, they can get up over 100. They can get super high. Like 1959 Les Pauls, original 59s. That was because that was owned by a specific person. That's why. Like if certain songs have been recorded in the studio, they get expensive. To me, Bagpuss is my favorite. Awesome. Oh, cool. True. There's nostalgia and history with that Bagpuss because that's the original. Like that's not a replacement. That is the original Bagpuss I used in all those old videos. Now he did get grabbed by a dog one time, but he fortunately he didn't get ruined. We got it away from the dog before any damage was done. But it did happen one time. It was a little bit of a scare. Running down the dog who had him. I don't want to go into the whole story. Fortunately, everything. No, the dog is fine. That dog is actually alive and happy. Yeah, Marshalls are great. Of course, that's a solid step. I don't have a tube amp. Yeah, I'll eventually get a tube. I like Fenders also though. Those new Magnetones though have really done well. But Marshalls are kind of very classic sound, definitely. Back to slip and slide. People can usually do weighted dips more, weighted chin ups. Usually I would think dips, but I guess it depends on the person. I can definitely do more with a weighted dip than a weighted chin. Yeah, Fender. It's just there's a different tone with the Fenders and the Marshalls on their tube amps. But no, they're great too. But I really like if you're looking for really clean, smooth. I used to watch baseball as a kid. I haven't as an adult. I think baseball is a good sport though. If I was going to watch a team sport, I would probably lean in that direction. I just haven't. Fender amps, when you're running like a Fender Strat or a Telecaster through them, if you're looking for those clean tones, they're very hard to beat. You know, favorite baseball team growing up? Yeah, because I was in Texas area, it was the Astros. I went and saw the Astros a few times as a kid. You know. Yeah, the clean tones on the Fenders, like Fenders do yours super well if you're not wanting any crunch in there. Yeah. No, but I saw the Astros a few times as a kid. Went to some games. But to me, it was more about the excitement of the event rather than the game itself. You know, going with a group of people, it's a social event. To me, it was more about that than the actual game. You know, it was the show of it and the social event. It can be like that with concerts too. You know, if you go to a concert, it's about the environment and how good of a show they put on more than necessarily being a fan of that particular song or musician. Right? And there's something about live music sometimes, assuming the band is good and they don't suck. You got a tone. That's a Marshall Drive Master. So the big black pedal over there, that's a Marshall Drive Master. And then I've got an Ibanez Tube Screamer. I've got a Boss DS1. And then one of those is just a tuner. And then one of them is just a cheap reverb. So my three main pedals are the Boss DS1, the Tube Screamer, and then the Drive Master on my pedal board. Yeah. Could use a better amp in the setup over time. Hey, Coach, how's it going? It's going limitless. How you doing, man? We're doing good here. What's your favorite guitar players? No, I don't really remember Jeff Bagwell. Professional athletes are not natty is a fair assumption. Like if someone's making their living as a professional athlete, it's just fair to assume they're not natty, just as a default. And that's not a judgment; it's not a moral call. Favorite guitar players? I have a lot of favorites. We talking respecting technical skills, or do I just love their musics and styles? There's be a pretty long list. I mean, I'm a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. Um, I like Angus Young, uh, Billy Gibbons. I'm a fan of Billy Gibbons. Technically speaking, although I don't like his music or him as a person, technically speaking, it's like Yngwie Malmsteen. Right? Favorite action star is always going to be Arnold. With the setup. You saw the Tube Screamer and then the Fender Strat. That color scheme on the Fender Strat and the Ibanez Tube Screamer might be a little bit of a nod to Stevie. Right? Yeah. But in terms of like just being a virtuoso, Yngwie is phenomenal. But notice he doesn't sell that many records. Do you believe protein bar to be better? No, protein powder is going to be. Bars are usually really junk food. Protein bars are usually junk food for the most part. I mean, true junk food. The issues you don't so much because people can't see the vision. Well, it's the difference of being amazingly good versus being moving people with emotion. So people who can move you with emotion are going to tend to do very very well as musicians. Okay, I mean, perfect example. Nirvana was a massive hit, and Kurt Cobain elicited emotion as a musician, right? So would you actually say that Kurt Cobain was a particularly good guitarist? Not really. He was a mediocre guitarist. Was as a vocalist, was he extremely top tier? No. But as a songwriter and a musician, did he elicit emotion? Absolutely. In a pretty profound way. Like watch that near the end when they did you if you've seen the whole MTV Unplugged thing, that live Unplugged he did in his final year before he died. Watch that performance. Watch that performance. Look at the emotion that he brought to the performance. That's rare. And especially, so if you really want to see one, okay, I'll give you one charm. Go watch, you can go watch it now and come back. Where Did You Sleep Last Night? That he did during that unplug. It was the final song of the night. I saw all this live, by the way. I saw this performance that night on MTV growing up. Like I saw this that evening. And then, he was dead within a few months. That was the closing song for the night. Phenomenal. Come back in a few minutes after you watch it. You'll understand. The difference between conveying emotion and moving people, making people feel something versus, say, your technical skills. Like, Ingwe doesn't move anybody. Now, in terms of a technical guitarist, in terms of his music theory and speed and skill, almost nobody's at that level. Pygmesium, I shivered the whole night through. There you go. My girl, don't lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? But phenomenal performance. Like, and anyone who hasn't seen it, man, go watch that performance. You'll be like, wow. That performance will run some chills up your spine. If you really just step back and listen to it, watch it. You could feel, he conveyed his pain in that song. Everybody watching that on some level, because remember, he offed himself not long after that performance, really. He did the deed. When you watch the performance later, you realize, I feel like when you watch that performance, he put all his pain and his heart into that performance, knowing that was probably going to be his last big show to just nail it. That performance was a man in pain and a dead man walking. And when you watch it and you realize when you're watching it, you're seeing something great. It's like, that's real. And when you're listening to it, that's real. And then the dude basically eats a shotgun shell not that long after. It was authentic. How often do you get that? How often does a musician convey their emotion to that degree? So we're talking musical talent versus a technical skill. So that's just sheer talent. The ability to move people with your music. Unless you have so many problems, I don't think that you gym enough, right? I agree. Yeah, women like you two can dance. It's definitely can be impressive to women. Not all women, but by and large, sure. If you're a really good dancer. This is a quote that almost no one's going to get with this iteration. Yeah, if you're a really excellent dancer. Oh my gosh. Saturday Night Live skit. I'm hooting about. No, we're gonna let him stay. Bro, he's trying to resolve his issue with Lucy Coach, man. We gotta fix that. Yeah, Charms will be back after listening to that song, and he'll see what I mean. So again, on that conversation, so by that same token, you take a guitarist like Ingwe. No, Lucy Coach is the girl who's dominating Limitless in his current situation and won't boyfriend him. And after it's his friend with benefit, and who after they get the deed on, Yeah. After they get the deed on, she spoons him from behind and calls him her little spoon. Hey man, don't judge. Don't be don't it's like you missed that whole conversation because it was in the coffee chats and Psych comes in here and she's got a psychology channel. So she's got she did her doctoral work in behavioral psychology. Even when she said about she typed, "Oh no." So she has a psychology channel. She comes through the coffee chats and she's like, "Oh no, you can't be the little spoon." Yeah, she gave him a hard time. That was pretty bad. She's like, "Oh no, no." So but he can work on it. I've already given him some of his solutions, man. He definitely needs to get out of his country, though. So there's your context. So this is his friends with benefit, who she's getting the milk for free and not buying the whole cow. So she doesn't want a relationship with him. They do no strings attached, and then she spoons him afterwards. You know, this is. That's what we've been telling him. Like, he needs to get under a barbell. Honestly, he just needs to build his confidence under a heavy ass squat bar. Get under the barbell, get real strong, man. Get to where you're squatting 3 plates for some reps. And then you need to flip her around and tell her that she's the little spoon and you fold her like laundry. You know what I mean, bro? Yeah. Um, I would have an existential crisis. Has me ever been to a therapist? No, right? I asked her if she wants to go for food, and she said, "Yeah, we can eat something at your place." She doesn't want anything to do with me outside of the bed, coach. Yeah, she's definitely one of those girls only for a good time. Coach, I laid seed beyond your toenails today. Is that close enough, man? Oh man, I'm not sure what you meant by the toenails, but if you laid some seed, with your girl, that counts. All right. Maybe she's one of those girls only for a good time. I think that's probably the case. He says that's ironic because I'm terrible in bed. It doesn't make sense. I don't know, man. We need to get Lucy Coach in the live stream. We need to get her in the live stream. Let's hear her side of this story. Tell her that you talked to this, right? Just tell her to come in the live stream, man. And she can put her name as Lucy and have her come in, confirm it's her, and I want to hear her side of the story. Right? I think we should. What do you guys think? What do the regulars think? We need Lucy Coach in here. Charles says he connect with them, and that's the way he looked at the people. So Charles, what did you think of the performance? So Charles is back from watching the video. As a musician, considering that was his last big show before he ended his own life, that song was the final closing act for the night. He conveyed his pain in that song. For those unaware, we're talking about the Kurt Cobain Nirvana MTV Live Unplugged performance. I saw it live at the time on TV when it was airing real time. So the final song of the night was "Where Did You Sleep Last Night?" And it's a cover. Yeah, man. That man conveyed his pain. And I felt like he was conveying his pain over his messed up marriage with Courtney Love and all that too. There are people who thought she killed him, by the way. you know. But man, you look at the nature of their relationship and then see those lyrics and the way he sang them. I felt like that song was about her. That song was about his cheating her wife. You know? Right. Which squat is superior between the high bar squat and the low bar squat in terms of athletic development? Oh man, that is a debate among debates among coaches. I know some amazing coaches who argue for both. I had Matt Griffiths. I don't know if you know who Matt Griffiths is. Uh, very, very well known British strength coach. He helped train me and to certify me to be a powerlifting meet judge. So he helped certify me to be able to pass world records. He had a chat with me about that and in person, and he said that he's a big believer that the high bar squat is actually superior for athletes. Now, keep in mind, he's a pretty serious strength coach who coaches strength for quite a few sports. He's a very well-known strength coach in the UK. Hips generate more power, but the hips are generating a ton of power still on the high bar. It's just his opinion. He feels that it has better carryover to jumping and things. It's his opinion that in terms of jumping, sprint speed, you know, Turtle Bob, why are conspiracy theories you think there is a slight convincing people that right? He did it properly to make a statement. Yeah. Matthew talking about the song? Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Like, I feel like as a fan at the time who watched that performance live and then saw the situation, I mean, I was obviously in high school at the time, a young man, but not quite a man, that he was conveying that statement. He was conveying his raw emotion. And all of us were saying, even my friends, after he died and everything, were like, dude, that song was about his wife. That song was about Courtney, you know? And she was a cheating hoe, you know, who was herself a famous musician. I think being explosive going deep matters more. Yeah, fair point. Balls deep in them walls, them sugar walls, man. But that was the point we were making with musicianship of, you know, are we talking about a successful musician, their ability to convey emotion? Or are we talking about technical ability? Because those are two very different things in a musician. And for me, the musician in me absolutely respects the technical. But if we're going to talk about what makes music, what really makes great music, everybody knows this, you know, and I think for people who are not musicians, there's no doubt about it. Everyone, no, dude, it's just in the title, Doug. Move on. We're just having fun. So we're talking about music and squats. Doug, get with the program, man. You need to get current in the live stream. Come on, stay on topic. So we're talking about high bar squats and athletic performance, and we're talking about conveying emotion in music. So something you might not understand if your mom took too much Tylenol. All right. But that's the point. And I think anyone who likes music understands this. You all know greatness when you see a musician who, when you hear their music, you feel something. And it doesn't matter what you feel. It could be happiness, it could be excitement, it could be anger, it could be depression and despair. You feel their pain, right? But you all know greatness when you hear it. Every one of us, when we hear a musician perform a song in a way that we feel the emotion, whatever that emotion happens to be, right? We all recognize that is greatness. We recognize that that is true talent. And I think we all know this. Everybody knows this. We all know. We all know when we hear greatness, even if it's a style of music we don't like. When they are truly good, we hear it and go, man, right? Are you going to stream games or do something? No, man, we talk during the live streams, bro. I chat with my people. It's Q&As. We have talks. Is it feminine to cry to a song? No, man. No, man. Bro, you didn't, it's not even feminine to cry during a movie. You didn't cry during Rudy. You didn't cry during 300. You know? Tell me you didn't watch Rudy and cry at the end when he got to score the winning touchdown. Right? When they let him play that game, finally. And his parents, his dad saw him out on the football field score the final touchdown. Tell me you didn't cry, mofo. Tell me you didn't cry when you saw that. Never got to play a game, and then he got to score the winning touchdown as a walk-on for Notre Dame with his dad watching. Come on, man. Saving Private Ryan. Absolutely, dude. You're going to tell me that it's beta for a man to cry during. I saw Saving Private Ryan in the theater. When that movie ended, I looked over, all my bros were crying. There's like 4 of my homies all standing there crying when we saw it in the theater, dude. When he's there and he falls down to the ground in front of his wife and children, his wife and grandkids over there, tell me I was a good man. And he falls to the ground crying. And it's all his grandchildren run over to pick him up. Shut up and tell me you didn't cry. I'm very familiar. I did a research paper on Gattaca, and it was for biology ethics class. So I cried a movie where the teenage girl went to heaven, Mark Wahlberg. Sojourner Syndrome, I can't cry. All right, fair enough. The Lovely Bones. Yeah, Gattaca's different. It's a good movie, though. The Curious Case of Benjamin. That's a good movie. No, that's a good movie. I've seen that with the reverse aging. Right. But no, Saving Private Ryan, dude. I can tell you right now, I saw Saving Private Ryan in the theater. And when that light came on right at the end, I look over, dude, like 4 of my bros are sitting there crying. They were just like, they lost it, man. Yeah, Green Mile. Yeah, that's up there. That can be a tearjerker. I think for men, like movies that will make men cry. No, I don't think that's beta at all, dude. Yeah, I barely remember high school too, but I remember that movie. Well, it's funny because I was thinking of Saving Private Ryan earlier. Do you cry a lot? Your mama makes me cry all the time, Doug. Hacksaw Ridge is a good movie. Yeah. Um, you know, to be honest, I felt very beta when I cried. Why, man? Being able to show emotion is a sign of manliness. Yeah, exactly, dude. There's nothing bad about crying during Saving Private Ryan. You just watched a man who these other men died saving his life in battle break down in front of his grandchildren and his wife and children and grandchildren, wanting to know that he lived a worthy life of their sacrifice. Come on, man. That's a tearjerker. I don't care how hard of a man you are. That's a tearjerker. Men should hold it. I don't think so. Could be Marley or me, you know. No, dude. You can't hold you can't hold everything in, man. No, bro, that's gives you heart attacks and ulcers. I'm not saying a degree of stoicism isn't warranted, but Doug, you in here made this channel today asking me if I cry a lot. New channel today, guys. Y'all caught that? Defiant. Are you calling for a kapow as a channel member, Defiant? Are you initiating a voting power? Defiant's calling for a vote. Limitless go stay. Defiant is a kapow. David calling for a kapow. What does kapow mean? We ban them from the channel. It's a death sentence. He's being judged by a jury of his peers. We believe in democracy. Well, he's coming in asking, do you cry a lot? And he made the new account. It's a new account today. It's brand new. He just made this thing just to come into this live stream. So Matthew gives a kapow. Charm gives a kapow. The line is a sin. So kapow. Hog Killer gives a kapow. We're at 5-1. All right. Doug, you have been judged by a jury of your peers, and you have been found guilty of treason. I sentence you to death. I am the law. Kapow! And you're out of here. The gavel has dropped. Look out the way, man. Get out of here, Doug. Tell him, man. Democracy in action. They kapowed me one day and I had to log out. All right. Why? Because the law is the law. No one is above the law, not even Coach. Well, you're feeling, oh, Lord. Right? Doug was on his knees and fed on Coach, right? Coach, why would you go to need a permit? No. If you get citizenship, no. But if you're on a visa, you have to get a federal license. Now, if you're a citizen, nothing is required. Say in Texas, dude, we're constitutional carry here. Texas is a constitutional carry state. There is no license. Coach, what hypothetically speaking would happen if a channel, so they can initiate a vote, but they need to have a valid reason. It can't be just because. But we've compelled channel members. So have we not voted and compelled channel members before? I think Bubba's saying that he's a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome is what he means by an alcohol baby, that his mama drank. Have you seen as a kid, man, that's a brutal movie though. Not something I really care to rewatch. I saw it as a kid. Some of my dad's family are. It's a family gathering, and they got Texas Chainsaw Massacre playing in the living room. Like 27 kids running around. So I'm like 6 years old. They got Texas Chainsaw Massacre on. The Omen movies freaked me out when I was little, right? Those were rough. Jaws scared the hell out of me as a kid. To me as a kid, that was probably the scariest movie was Jaws, man. I was terrified to get in the water. I was scared of pools for like 6 months. There's sharks in the water. I was like, there's sharks in the water. I didn't want to get in. Super chats can influence the voting so it can be rigged for the right amount. That's true. We've seen that happen. But we called it at like $50. Like if you're wanting to super chat a ban on a regular, it's got to be a significant amount. Like we're not doing this for $10, man, because these are regulars. Yeah. Well, I didn't say it would be a permanent ban per se. Yeah. Well, this has come up and people try to vote and offer 20 or 25, and we all agreed no. Let's scare somebody's going to pay $50 to ban him. All killers thinking about doing it. All killers like, I can get rid of Lewis for $50. I like the Michael. I remember that Michael Jackson too. Yeah, dude, when I was a kid, y'all scared of. But let's talk about performances. Yeah, let's talk about performances. So Jaws, right? The USS Indianapolis speech, right? Well, not just a bigger boat. You keep pining over Psych, I'm going to have to nominate you for this, right? But again, let's talk about great performances. That impromptu performance, that speech, he wrote his own story. The guy was drunk and gave that performance, and he scripted it himself. For those of you know what I'm talking about, the Indianapolis speech while they're drinking on the boat. Does anybody not know what I'm talking about? Do I need to link this? Oh man. Here, you guys can all save this for later. Let me see if I can link it. For those who don't know what I'm talking about. Great performance, right? Absolutely great performance. Can I get the thing to open? Come on. All right. So I'm going to link this. So anyone who wants to watch this later, just save this link from the Jaws movie. All right. So I just linked the Indianapolis speech from the Jaws movie. Right. That performance, keeping in mind the actor wrote that was impromptu. He just sat down and told that story. And they did it in like one take, apparently. Like, damn. Like, I went real dark real fast. Yeah. I mean, that was like an Oscar worthy performance at the time. Kathy Bates in Misery is the greatest performance. That wasn't bad, to be fair. I was too young to recall any specifics. Okay, I'm back. Talk to you on a bit. Coach, what are your thoughts on medical cannabis? I mean, if you need it, it seems to be potentially helpful for PTSD. I think Limitless has joined the club and become a channel member, right? Yeah, they don't let actors do that anymore. But I linked that. For those who don't know what we're talking about, save it for later. Check it out. Check it out now. It's fine. That performance, like that's some serious acting, because you're listening to it going, wait, is this a true story? Like, whoa, is this really, like, is this real? Like, you know, because the way it's presented, you know, yeah, they took away people's personal touch personalities, even in music. But, you know, so that actor, he sat down and told that story about the boat sinking, you know. So he was in the story, the guy who's hunting the shark with him, he was a survivor from the boat that delivered the bomb in a secret mission to Hiroshima. And then the boat sank. It was shot in the water and sank. And because it was a classified mission, they didn't send anybody to come get them. You know, it's the story is like, I'm getting chills remembering the way he told the story. Yeah. Yeah. He was a real drill sergeant, that's right. David, can you gift me so I can become an art warrior? He's asking you to gift him. You don't have $3 a month limitless. Yeah, the Full Metal Jacket drill instructor. Yeah, no, he was a real drill instructor. They hired him. Forrest Gump's a good movie, but no, that's that story that he tells in that link I gave. That is a piece of cinema history. Again, Oscar-winning performance, all impromptu. He just sat down and did that. He improvised that. And it's one of those where, you're hearing the story, you're like, damn, that's acting. It's a great movie. Anytime I see it, I will watch it. Yeah, Forrest Gump's, I think I saw it in the theater. Also, I look on this, but I can't see how. If you tell me, I'll give you a membership. I don't have the Lord of the Rings trilogy as the ultimate dude movie. You're just wrong. I like those. I'm a big fan. I actually really, really, really like The Hobbit after two. She tastes like cigarettes, Lieutenant Dan. All right. Jenny was a 304, though she was, right? This is great. So at Glance Coaches, I'm doing a lot of streaming, yeah, because I'm caught up on a lot of my other stuff. And this streaming has been getting me clients and consultations. So for my coaching business, this has been one of the best things I've done. Like, dude, I am literally doing 5 or 6 consultations every month just from the streams. And some of them have turned into clients. So, no, the streaming has been phenomenal for business. My favorite movie is definitely Rudy. He sacrificed a lot and worked hard for his goals. I mean, Rudy's a classic too. Press gift member, but I don't think you can pick the member. I think it's random. This is just randomly gives the gift out. Unless you can do some, I don't know if you can add somebody. I need that immunity from coaching the jury. He's like, these all legitimately words, man. I'm not saying you shouldn't be. You know how they are. Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is good. I saw that in the theater as a kid with my family. Well, acceptable alternative Lord of the Rings is the best dude movie is right. I don't care for Roadhouse that much, to be fair. Patrick Swayze. Yeah. But no, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is great. I caught those in the theater also. But the Hobbit movie is phenomenal. Some of my current favorites are the Hobbit ones. I've watched it a couple times this year. Get there and back again. So, yeah, have a good night, Charm. Is there any benefit to watching scary movies increase testosterone? No, not really. There's benefit to watching scary movies on a date, though, by the way. Because if she grabs you for comfort during a scary movie, best training scene in the movie, think Bruce Wayne, Batman versus Superman. That was probably the only decent training montage I can think of. But we also have the program. I mean, granted, it's a lot shorter scene, but how about the program with Latimer's doing those cleaning presses with that heavy weight, and then screams and busts his head on the busting windshield. Oh my God. It applies to any activity that synergistic coach decreases heart rate, mirrors the feeling of attraction, right? I don't discuss my plans, Jay. I'll do anything to increase your testosterone except get under a barbell. Go get under a barbell. Like before as an epic training montage. Yeah, true. It's a classic, but it's not. We don't see the good training. At least the Bruce Wayne scene he's talking about, he's actually training in a way that most of us would recognize as actual real training. All right, guys. I think I'm about to wind this down now. We didn't get any supers today. There was no supers in this one. Oh well. It don't matter. Is it 6 hours a day to talk to the same 500? Kapow! And Paul's out of here. All right, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and wind this down. Give you guys a mount biceps before we go. And we're out.